So that girl I met on eHarmony.
Yeah.
We're out to dinner last night, and like a klutz, I tipped my drink all over myself.
Oh, no.
And it's all down my shirt, a horrible stain, so embarrassing. And you'll never guess.
What?
She smiles, picks up her drink, spills it all over her top. So now we're...
No way.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.
It's so awesome that we can keep learning and evolving every day. Sometimes that means changing our mind about something we thought we already knew. One of the things that helps me a ton that I always pay special attention to is when someone tells me, I used to think this way, but I've actually changed my mind and now I believe this to be true. It means they've really thought about it and have some good reasons and solid information that I want to hear about. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 164, Things I've Changed My Mind About. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hey, and welcome to another episode. So glad that you're here with me today. Thanks for being an awesome person out doing some good things in the world. How's your intuition? It's such a hard subject to try to be analytical about, but I hope you feel like it's real and really powerful. I do think you'll age better and be able to navigate any health issues that might pop up better if you're able to access your intuition more readily. Today, we're going to talk about some things I've changed my mind about. I love hearing things that people have changed their minds about. I find it so useful. So I hope this is helpful to you as you decide what serves you and your journey the best. Let's start with a couple of things that are kind of just commonly believed by the population at large. Number one is stress is bad. This is a pretty ubiquitous belief, and there are sometimes benefits to reducing stress, but I've learned a lot about how it's your perception of stress that's the real problem. If you perceive it as a threat, that's a problem. If you perceive yourself as a victim, that's a problem too. But if you perceive it as a challenge, it makes you better. And if you recognize that you don't have to say yes to everything everyone expects of you, you can simply eliminate a large portion of nonsense in your life. Not caring what other people think goes a long way toward a stress-free existence. But really, certain stressors are really good, like carrying something heavy or going for a promotion at work. And most other stressors are only bad because of the ways we think about them. So it's a mindset problem more than a circumstances problem, which is fantastic because it's usually way easier to change your mindset than your circumstances. Number two is saying no to something delicious is a punishment. Like everything, this is all in how you think about it. Wow, genius, I know. But I did used to very much feel like having to say no to something I actually wanted was this terrible thing that took so much willpower. I don't really know how to describe it even, but it was like an energy suck that felt like I was being punished. It was so disappointing. Very much a scarcity brain kind of mindset. Once I decided to deliberately change my body composition in 2020, but only by doing things to do so that were fun, I realized that I could eat anything I wanted and still get the results I wanted. It's just that some foods are way more expensive than what I wanted to pay for them, so they just weren't worth it to me. I knew I could have them if I wanted to, just like I could buy a $700 purse if I want to. But I don't want to. I don't care about brand name bags or clothes, because I'd rather allocate my money to something that will make my future better, like a low-fee Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. My 14-year-old has been super into learning about investing lately, so we've been listening to a lot of info about proper asset allocation. For the purse thing, it's not a hard choice. It's not even a choice at all, really, because I don't go looking for or at expensive bags. I'm too busy learning about commodity EFTs with my kid. Small sacrifices of money put into good investment product now turns into huge assets down the road. Once I knew I was going to eat whatever I wanted within my nutrition parameters, I started seeing available treats and temptations for what they were: exorbitantly expensive without a requisite reward of enjoyment. If something is super sugary and calorically dense, it better be life-alteringly good. Most things aren't. There's a little room in every good budget for some fun spending, so I just got pickier about what was worth the splurge, and most things really aren't. I think eating's more enjoyable when you decide to only splurge on really high-quality bread on a very rare occasion and really, really enjoy it, or only get the most exquisite lemon dessert that there is. That's not something you do every day, and if you happen to come across something super amazing, it's easy to realize that if it's not in the budget today, you can always go back for it another day when it is. There's no shortage of delicious treats in the world, trust me. If it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, you can choose to go into debt for it, but you'd better be really sure that it's worth it. None of it is punishment at all. It's just wise spending to maximize future returns. Number 3, the sun is bad for your skin and eyes. Of course, you need to be careful, but our skin and eyes both need some sun exposure to be healthy, and hiding behind sunscreen and sunglasses 100% of the time actually makes us weaker. And getting too much sun exposure will damage you. So, Goldilocks, ladies. We have light receptors all over our body that help control our circadian rhythms and other things. We need sunlight to make vitamin D in our skin, and our eyes actually stay healthier when our pupils need to contract and expand in response to high or low levels of light. According to vision expert Mir Schneider, the pupils of most modern people are very weak because they wear sunglasses every time they're outside. Automatic activities like those of the eye's iris muscles that affect the pupils are influenced by function and use. The more you constrict and expand your pupils, the stronger the iris muscles become. Your retina also benefits from more concentrated light, and blood flows much better to the eye as a result of the pupils contracting and expanding. Obviously, never do anything painful or allow your eyes to become sunburned, which they can. And UV light does contribute to the development of cataracts and macular degeneration, so it's a tricky thing to get the benefits of light without the damage of UV. But we evolved to live in harmony with the sun, and small amounts of it for short periods of time can be healthy. Number 4, weight loss is good. This is a pervasive thought in our society that losing weight is always a good thing. I've never been overly disillusioned by it, but it's easy to forget that weight loss is not always a good thing. Certainly for an emaciated person, but even for an overweight person who's trying to lose weight. Weight loss is only good if the result is that your body is stronger and more capable and resilient than it was before. And a lot of diets and weight loss drugs do not create a stronger, more capable body that feels better to inhabit. So don't be fooled. Number 5 is very similar. Body fat is bad. But I was always pretty sure that body fat is bad. We're all sold that story all day, every day. Body fat can be metabolically active in a bad way and pro-inflammatory. It's true, and problems arise when you're too heavy to be able to easily move and create the physical stress from exercise that makes your body more resilient. While it's true that a great deal of body fat on humans throughout the world is detrimental, it's absolutely possible to have some visible inert subcutaneous body fat and still be metabolically fit and extraordinarily healthy. There are so many vastly superior ways to evaluate your health status than just body fat. We talked more about this in episode 141, Good Body Fat. Body fat percentage is one of many useful things to know, but it's not always bad, and you certainly can't evaluate someone's metabolic health just by looking at them. Number 6, exercising checks the movement box for the day. Most people know that movement is important, but they also think of movement as exercise only and think that they're not sedentary if they went to the gym that day. We talked all about this way back in episode 28. I thought that too. Turns out we were all wrong. You need to move frequently throughout the day if you want to put more years lived in good health into your future, whether you formally exercise that day or not. And movement doesn't necessarily mean exercising. It can be simply standing up from your chair or touching your toes or going for a 1-minute walk. And spacing some little movement sessions out throughout your day is better than doing all your movement for the day during a single session. Movement and exercise are both important, and they're not always the same thing. Exercise is hugely beneficial, but it doesn't exonerate you from the need to move frequently throughout the day. Separate exercise from movement in your mind and your body's need for exercise from its crucial need for frequent movement throughout the day, and you'll be on a much better path. Hey, I just wanted to quickly interrupt and say good for you for being here listening to a podcast about improving your biological age relative to your chronological age. Have you ever thought about slowing the biological aging of your skin? If you heard my episode 55 about senescent cells, then you know that the accumulation of these undead cells accelerates all of the problems of aging. Well, now there's a topical supplement you can put on your skin that reduces the accumulation of senescent cells in your skin. This reduces wrinkles, but also all other skin conditions caused by thinner, weaker, drier skin. It also reduces the formation of age spots and increases collagen and hyaluronic acid production within your skin. It's a peptide called OS01, and it's in a product called OneSkin. I use it every day on my face and neck, and I've noticed a big difference. I would say my skin is more moisturized, but that's not a good enough description because it's not like when you put moisturizer on, but your skin is still dry underneath. It's the exact opposite. The topical supplement isn't greasy at all, but my skin is plumper and healthier from the inside out. I'm a big fan. If OneSkin sounds like something you'd like to try, there's a link in the show notes to get you $20 off. All right, back to the episode. Okay, number 7. Weightlifting is complicated and intimidating. Weightlifting is one of my very favorite things to do now. I just got back from the gym this morning, and it's literally my favorite part of the week. So it's almost hard to remember back to when this was true for me, but it totally was, and I know it might be what a lot of you might believe to be true now. My thoughts on this changed once I got the proper instruction to know what to do, how to do it correctly on my own, and the opportunity to do it regularly according to an organized plan. I think figuring out a good weightlifting routine, I prefer barbells and functional movements, and learning to love it is probably the biggest gift you can give your future self. Seriously. I don't think I can properly express how huge of a game changer it will be if you arrive at your later decades of life well muscled and with the side effects that tend to go with strength, like high bone density, metabolic health, mental health, being goal-oriented, seeing hard things as challenges, etc., etc. It's funny that all it took was a bit of me doing it to realize that it's pretty much the opposite of complicated. So, if you're intimidated by weightlifting, I implore you to do something about it today. Send me a message at healthcouragecollective@gmail.com if you want some help. I'll see what I can do to support you in realizing how great it is and learning to love it as much as I do. It is imperative if you want to remain abnormally independent in your later years of life. And it's seriously so fun. You've got this. All right, number 8. High-tech shoes are amazing. Like a lot of people, I used to think that foot pain and other problems could and should be remedied with orthotics or high-tech shoes or specific devices made for plantar fasciitis, bunions, overpronation, arch pain, whatever. Cushioning protects the feet from fatigue. Arch support is essential. All the things. That's a mindset that I now think of as crazy. But of course, I didn't know any better before. Life is better with strong feet that are allowed to move the way nature intended, and being as close to barefoot as possible once your feet are sufficiently strong is the best way to prevent all kinds of aches and pains. Not to mention that strong feet and toes are critical components of being fall resistant. That's hugely important when you're older. I had basically never thought about it 15 years ago or so, but now I think about it all the time. Just today I was out standing in a weirdly precarious place picking strawberries in my garden, and I totally started falling completely forward, and I felt my toes catch me in a way that I don't think they would have been strong enough to do just 2 years ago. Turns out that if we were all barefoot or just wearing moccasins all the time, the majority of foot problems would be non-existent. Like all those diagnoses and orthotics and everything wouldn't even be a thing. There are ways to rehab foot conditions and prevent them in the first place by strengthening your feet. Your life is so much better when your feet are strong. And of course, foot problems can manifest in chronic pains on all parts of your body. Knee pain, hip pain, back pain, you name it. Visualize your future in your 70s, 80s, and 90s as you barefoot or in minimalist footwear. No orthotics or old people shoes. Maintaining your toe and foot strength into your later decades of life will give you abnormally positive dividends. I promise. Oh, and I hadn't thought of this before, but something else I've changed my mind about is that sometimes you do need more foot support, like if you're walking long distances carrying weight. So minimalist shoes are almost, but not always, the best solution. There are certain conditions when more support is required. That's a realization I've only recently had. The next few things are things that as I learned more about preventative health and thought I was getting smarter than the standard long, slow, rot belief about health and aging, I thought I knew for sure, but my views have shifted. Number 9 is that there's a perfect body posture. This is somewhat similar. I believe there's so much chronic pain and injury that can be prevented by learning proper body mechanics and alignment. We talked about this before. It's super powerful, but I'm starting to realize that that was a bit of a simplistic view, a powerful one that's way better than believing that every problem we ever have is dumb luck and completely out of our control. But I've come to begin to see that the idea that your joints should all line up 100% perfectly according to some standard formula for everyone all the time is going a little too far. Everyone is different, and it's all about whether your body positions are right for you and you can support a load and transfer the weight properly and or do work in the positions you put your body in or not. Like most things in life, it's more nuanced than it appears at first. There is the generalized ideal and then the specific ideal for you. Many people aren't supporting a load with the proper mechanics, but some people are when they look like they're not, so it's individual. Getting your movement patterns right for you won't look the same as for someone else, but it will for sure prevent a lot of pain and injury for you over the years. Number 10, low carb is always better. Overall, I think that the average American eats way too many simple carbs. There are some amazing benefits to recognizing your habitual eating patterns and eating fewer simple carbohydrates. But it's also true that studies attempting to show the benefits of reduced carbohydrate diets keep showing that they're not really superior for body composition or health metrics, which I found surprising. So as it turns out, the whole balanced diet thing was actually right. It's how our ancestors evolved to eat, which seems important to know. I still do think there are benefits to cycling keto-type eating occasionally or using a very low-carb meal as a kind of fasting mimicking time period. And for people that have metabolic problems, for sure, starting out on a low-carb plan can start to fix some of those metabolic problems, and then eventually you cycle off of it. But overall, eating some natural and unprocessed carbohydrates along with the fiber that would come in nature along with it is not a worse strategy than putting on your low-carb halo and killing yourself to stay under a certain number of carbohydrates for the day. For an outcome of body composition and even, if done correctly, for cellular and metabolic health. Number 11, fasting is magical. I absolutely still stand by my conviction that you need a period of daily fasting in order to be healthy. You just aren't able to sleep as well if you eat within 3 hours of bedtime, and your brain's self-cleaning system, the lymphatic system, can't work when you're busy digesting a meal. So fasting is absolutely critical, but I used to think that it had some additional magical properties for health and body composition goals. That you could get into autophagy and you could get way better results from a 16 or 18 hour fast every day. But newer studies have started to come out showing that if you eat the same calories and macronutrients throughout the day, whether you spaced them out over 14 hours or 6 hours, the body composition results were the same and you don't actually get into autophagy in a 16 to 18 hour fast. I still think intermittent fasting, which is really just time-restricted eating, is useful in a lot of ways. It helps you not overconsume calories. That's very important for most of us, but not all. One of the best things you can do for your body composition is to not eat snacks. Restricting the amount of time you will eat per day is very helpful with that. We tend to be creatures of habit, getting time to eat cues because it's the time that we would normally eat rather than just that we are actually starved for fuel. So that helps too. Longer fasts have a lot of benefits, including autophagy and being more metabolically flexible, being able to easily access body fat for fuel. But one of the best things about fasting, especially for longer periods of time, is that it teaches you that you can do hard things. You can feel hungry and still function. That hunger isn't an emergency that must be dealt with immediately. That's a great thing to learn. I don't know about you, but one of the things I learned from being pregnant was that hunger is a looming catastrophe. It was wild. Was it like that for you? Then I think I never really unlearned that mindset until I started consciously deciding that I wouldn't eat for certain periods of time. Then I realized, oh, I'm perfectly fine. I actually feel good even. So I still have a lot of good things to say about fasting and time-restricted eating, but I'm realizing that as far as cellular housekeeping, fat loss, and body composition go, its usefulness seems to come from it being an effective way to restrict calories and frequent consumption of carbohydrates. There are too people who are adamant that women should not fast and don't have the same benefits from fasting that men do, and it might be true. I'll continue to do what feels good for me, which is time-restricted eating most days, and I know that for 99.9% of human history, there were some hungry women, so you do what feels right for you. Number 12, steady state cardio. I used to do some regular running, but I have come to kind of hate steady state cardio and definitely saw endless time on the elliptical or treadmill as a tremendous waste of time. If you could get all the benefits of long cardio sessions in a short period of time, why would anyone do anything different? I loved the idea of high intensity intervals. The shorter, the better. I'm all about efficiency and getting more benefits in less time, so I believed I could reap all the benefits of cardio in a fourth of the time. I have, however, come to appreciate that there are in fact benefits to low intensity steady state cardio, reluctantly. Fitness people who talk a lot about so-called zone 2 cardio training. The high intensity part of a HIIT workout would be like zone 5. Zone 2 is more like you can talk, but it's not comfortable to do so, and the person you're talking to can tell that you're exercising. Your heart rate would be approximately 180 minus your age. Technically, it's defined as the highest metabolic output you can sustain while keeping your lactate level below 2 millimoles per liter. The reasons I have for now believing steady state cardio is an important part of health and elite level aging are: 1, it does in fact improve the single best predictor of all-cause mortality. 2, it's a great way to maintain the type of insulin and blood glucose levels you need to be able to stay healthier than the average person for a long period of time. 3, it creates massive appreciation of your most valuable aging asset. And 4, it stimulates release of the brain miracle grow you need to have a killer brain as you age. So first, the most accurate test you can get to determine your all-cause mortality is a VO2 max test. It's a discussion for another time, but if you're in the top 25, 10, 5, or 1% of people for your age for VO2 max, you're almost guaranteed to be in those same categories, 25%, 10%, 5%, 1%, for health span. It's the single best test for longevity that there is. Low intensity steady state cardio improves your efficiency of movement so that when you're at a higher intensity, all of your aerobic work goes toward correct movement patterns and you get better results. It also increases your aerobic base, meaning you're able to sustain more aerobic work for a longer period of time. The goal is to stay at the same heart rate and perceived level of exertion, but be able to go faster and longer. This happens with regular zone 2 training because your oxygen consumption increases and you increase the amount of work you can do with the same level of effort. And your peak oxygen consumption will also increase, which is your VO2 max, the best predictor of health span. Second, one of the best things you can do for your overall health span is to have healthy levels of insulin and glucose. One way to do that is to not eat too much sugar or simple carbohydrates. Definitely don't drink sugar. This is huge. An additional thing you can do is to have a constantly operating glucose vacuum, otherwise known as muscle mass. More muscle tissue equals better ability to properly deal with glucose, but low-intensity steady-state cardio is another way to improve your ability to dispose of glucose. You burn some sugar for fuel as you're trucking along, but your insulin levels and glucose levels are able to stay more steady for the whole rest of the day. Pretty cool. Third, do you know what I'm going to say is your most valuable aging asset? My favorite little cellular organelle that typically declines with age? Yes, your mitochondria. Aging can almost wholly be defined as a loss of mitochondria in numbers and in function. The more functional mitochondria you have, the younger your cells are able to behave. Zone 2 cardio improves mitochondrial functionality and mitochondrial density, meaning it helps maintain a higher quality of mitochondria and the ones you have are higher functioning. This is absolutely huge for longevity. And fourth, you for sure want your brain and other neurons working as well as possible for as long as possible. If brain health matters to you, and it should because your brain is awesome and the world needs its unique insights, then you want healthy levels of a neurotransmitter called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF helps keep neurons from withering away and helps them function properly. This is crucial for helping prevent neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, but it also helps with memory, learning, and mood. You want to make as much of it as you can, and steady state cardio is one way to boost it. It's recommended that you get about 3 to 4 hours a week of zone 2 cardio. Since I've been adding this back to my life, I probably get 1.5 to 3 hours a week, depending on the week. And I'm hoping to increase that to the 3 to 4 hours a week recommendation. I'm convinced that the benefits are sufficiently huge and I'm working on loving it more. I'm usually pretty happy doing it as long as I'm outside. Rucking and hiking is my favorite flavor of steady state cardio right now. Okay, 13. Supplements are a foundational part of your anti-aging strategy. This is a hard one for me because I love supplements and I know a lot about them. I take a boatload of them. I think they're super great still. But in thinking about your building an optimal strategy to age at an elite level, I'm again reluctantly coming to realize that they're not a foundational part of an excellent plan. They can be awesome and I'm all about plugging the right ones into your routine, but I'm starting to see more and more that they're not the first or second or third place thing you should be focusing your attention and resources on. You'll get so much more bang for your buck from truly foundational practices that it would be irresponsible to spend your time and money zeroing in on a supplement strategy to improve the health parameters that I think are essential to putting more years lived in good health into your future. Things like strength, muscle mass, bone density, sleep duration and quantity, aerobic capacity, balance, blood pressure, lipid levels, brain function, and more. Are there supplements that can help with all of those things? Absolutely. Are they the highest reward behaviors? Not hardly. So let's keep all the amazing benefits supplements can do for us while also keeping their value in perspective and not step over $100 bills on our way to pick up pennies. Finally, number 14, my goal is a distant shore to be reached. I used to think that we make goals to achieve and that if we do everything right, we'll someday get to a place where we don't have any more disappointment, struggle, heartache, or hard work. That we could earn our way to exoneration from the struggles of less evolved people. It sounds a little ridiculous, I know, but I definitely had this idea that self-improvement was about getting somewhere and that there would be an end. I would arrive at my destination. Also, I thought the goal is to have an easy, carefree life with no problems, and if we do everything right, we'd get there. I thought if I tried something and gave up on it, I was a failure. I know now that finding a routine that works for me usually requires many iterations and revisions, and that's okay. It doesn't always stick at first, and sometimes things need to change. Most importantly, I've learned now that my ideals are not distant shores, but guiding stars. That's from a quote I love by Tal Ben-Shahar. Goals and ideals are vital in that they give me a direction to aim, but I'm never actually going to get there. And that's the way it's supposed to be, the journey and not the destination and all that. Who knew that Miley Cyrus would be so right about, ain't about how fast we'll get there, ain't about what's waiting on the other side, it's the climb. It's about adventuring into the unknown, and it's important that the journey be in the direction of my choosing. That's why my guiding star is so crucial. I need ideals to know where I'm aiming. But there will still be doldrums and storms, and there will never be an end to pain, uncertainty, and hard work. Well, that can sound a little disappointing at first, like life sucks and then you die. It's actually the best news ever because you don't have to wait to experience joy and peace and satisfaction until you arrive at your distant shore. Once you know you're never actually going to get there, you can loosen up on the self-flagellation for not getting it yet, right? Joy, peace, and satisfaction are available every step of the way. You're not too Cro-Magnon to experience the wonderful things you thought you needed to earn someday. Whew! You're enough, just as you are. Keep your eye on your guiding star, course correct when necessary, and enjoy the ride. What things have you changed your mind about? Is there something that you're starting to see the nuances of more clearly now? Or something that new information is proving to be false? It's a good thing to evaluate. Thank you so much for listening in today. You are my favorite person. Next week, we're going to talk about why you should care about uric acid. Until then, change your mind about something and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.
So, that girl I met on eHarmony.
Yeah.
We're out to dinner last night, and like a klutz, I tipped my drink all over myself.
Oh, no.
And it's all down my shirt, a horrible stain, so embarrassing. And you'll never guess.
What?
She smiles, picks up her drink, spills it all over her top. So now we're
No way.
amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.